So, as we all unfortunately know by now, Cosmopolitan writes the garbage of the internet, similarly to BuzzFeed and all those other journalism websites, if we can call them that. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Anyways, so they came out with this great, thought-provoking article called "Get Out Perfectly Captures the Terrifying Truth About White Women." So the only thing I want to say before I get into this, and I want to preface this by saying, if you do not like white women, that is fine. If you don't trust white women, that is fine. We're all entitled to our racist biases, I guess. Under the title it says, there are many scary things about the movie, but the scariest of all is its realistic depiction of racism. So I don't know if any of you guys have actually seen Get Out, but for the first part of the article, it's just her kind of giving you a summary of Get Out. Essentially, I'm going to break it down for you. This black guy meets this white girl. The white girl says she's never dated a black guy. She takes him home to meet her white parents, who are acting very overly unracist, which makes them seem racist. The mom is like a hypnotherapist, so she offers to hypnotize him to cure his smoking, and he says no, and essentially what happens is that he finds out that there's something up, and that he sees that there's a guy that was missing from the suburb that he came from, that was married to a white woman twice his age, seemingly against his will. And so that's where things start getting weird. So then the white girl's family effectively run a ring in which they hope to lure black people into their home, hypnotize them using a literal silver spoon, then auction them off to middle-aged white suburban neighbors who, through surgery, go on to live in the black people's younger, healthier bodies forever. So then the writer goes on to say that she's butthurt and feels betrayed because she really wanted to believe that the white girl was a good girl and that she wasn't a crazy fucking racist that helped cultivate brains, essentially. So she goes through this, like, all the possible scenarios that could excuse this white girl before she finds out that she was in on it, right? So she was clearly shook by this white girl being, like, evil. She goes on to compare this racism in the movie that includes hypnotizing and pretty much abducting the bodies of these black men. She compares that to the sinking feeling of being betrayed by a white woman you've stand for, loved, like, or even simply been mildly okay with. It's that feeling when you find out that after enjoying her in Easy A and finding her bubbly personality lovable, Emma Stone was fine with playing an Asian woman in Aloha. Maybe you went through it with Scarlett Johansson when you found out that she'd accepted the lead role in Ghost in the Shell, an adaptation of a Japanese anime series. It's the betrayal you feel the first time you realize that women are labeled pop culture feminist icons, like Tina Fey, are perfectly fine with gunning for blackface laughs at your expense, or blaming your idols for white girls' lack of self-esteem. Beyonce's many things, but she's not the reason you hate your body.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
And then she's like, for some, it's 53% of white women who voted for Trump are finding out that the leader of your local NAACP chapter is literally a white woman in disguise. For others, it's finding out that Taylor Swift's been coasting on America's fear of black men for years. I feel it every time I realize there's a white woman on my Twitter timeline who will tweet in earnest for Planned Parenthood while only sparing a perfunctory tweet for Black Lives Matter or the Standing Rock Sioux? I don't know how you say it in English, sorry. There's a lot to unpack here. First of all, look, to the writer of this, like, I know that you were hurt that the white girl in the movie turned out to be a fucking racist bitch, but I don't think we can compare the betrayal you felt with a woman cultivating black people's bodies and brains for the benefit of old white people. I don't think you can compare that quite to Tina Fey or Taylor Swift or Scarlett Johansson or Emma Stone's behavior. You can be disgusted with their behavior like that. I don't care. Everyone has their opinion. I'm not stopping you or anything. But the whole comparison here, I think, is kind of shitty. I feel like making this comparison is kind of spitting in the face of all the people who suffered through slavery, all the people who got beat up just because they were black, all the people who got assaulted in other ways just because they were black. I think it's spitting in the face of people who have actually gone through something to say that this white woman's betrayal in a fictional movie is comparable to all these kind of minor things that, yes, might be upsetting to you, but I don't think are the same level. I don't know if that makes sense, but to me it just seemed like a huge reach. And I understand analogies, but the thing is, like, when you make an analogy, you need to make sure that the level of extremism is the same and that they actually align. And here I just don't feel like the brain thing aligns with people taking roles in movies or voting for Trump. And Rachel Dolezal is a piece of shit. Like, that is old news at this point, and I completely agree with that. Also, one thing that I really didn't like is mentioning the Planned Parenthood thing and the Black Lives Matter thing, because it's like, someone can support Planned Parenthood and not support Black Lives Matter, and just because they don't support Black Lives Matter, that doesn't automatically make them a racist. So grouping all these things together, like, if you support Planned Parenthood, you have to support Black Lives Matter and a whole bunch of other shit, is bullshit, because people are selective and they have their priorities. So I don't think it's fair to act like if a white person only supports one of those 2 or 3 that they're X or Y. But I digress. She goes on to say, the thought that white people may see you as no more than a body for use or a culture from which you can pick and choose what you like while discarding the rest and those who invented it. The idea that a white woman you see as a potential friend or ally will eventually prove to be looking out for her best interest over yours for a greater good. These are concepts that the people of color watching these films are intimately familiar with. So, racism exists, but the fact that it's a whole generalization of what all people of color will think and what all white people are is a little bit useless and honestly counterproductive, because if we want to stop stereotyping, we got to stop stereotyping all across the board. So we got to decide which way we want it. Either it's all stereotypes or it's no stereotypes. You don't just get a pass to stereotype people in a negative way because you don't like their skin color, right? Because if it were a white person doing it towards a black person, it's not okay. And it's not okay in any case. Any case, okay? I don't know why I have to say that. It feels like it should be obvious, but I guess it's not at this point. This is the nice dramatic finish of the article. White women have always played and continue to play a large part in upholding the supremacy. They have not held the best interests of people of color. Putting full trust in them has often been to our detriment. Rose's willingness to put herself and essentially the survival of white bodies above the well-being of black people was as unsurprising as it was terrifying. So it actually was surprising because you didn't think of that until you actually discovered it. You kept coming up with excuses for her, so obviously it must have been kind of surprising to you. But go ahead and contradict yourself, it just helps me. Anyways, and then she says, in Get Out, whiteness trumps all, and the true horror is leaving the theater knowing that in this case, it's not just a movie.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly.
So again, we come back to comparing this fictional thing that has never happened. Obviously, there are other racist things that have happened, but this particular fictional thing has not happened. And comparing it to women right now. And as much as you can try and make analogies, I just do think that this example is too extreme. Taking an analogy from relating a horror movie to real life oftentimes is too much of a reach unless the horror movie actually is based on real facts. But here, I just don't see it. Maybe it's this article that is badly written, or her opinion isn't coming through, or maybe I just don't get it. But I don't think that this was a well-made argument. And if you want to talk about not trusting white women and not liking white women, that's fine, but at least try and make an argument that can stand up to criticism, where instead here you have contradicted yourself. So that's just my 2 cents on the thing. Honestly, I read this and expected what was going to happen because, you know, like, white people were the bad guys in this movie, and of course people would say, like, actually it's not just a movie, that's exactly how things are in the real world. But let me know what you guys think about all this. Do you think the article was well written? Do you agree? What do you think? Let's have a civil discussion. Please, please. No comments about, oh, you're a white person so you can't talk about this, because I've gotten those comments. I still can talk about it, and I just did, so sorry, not sorry. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and let's get into the fan art.